So next thing, uh, Mariam Abu Laila, soon to be Dr. Abu Laila. And she will give you some advice on applying for medical school. Let me put that presentation up.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. How are you? I know that there's quite a few high school students here, and also people that are about to go off to college. So this is good advice for either who are interested in medicine, and even if you want to go into an entirely different field, I would urge you to still put into perspective this presentation in another field. It just basically advice on how to navigate through your undergraduate career and how to plan it out effectively. So we can just go on. The first thing you should do before you start in your pre-med life as an undergraduate or a high school is first decide, do you want to be a doctor? This is the most important question that you're going to be asked over and over again in your interviews, and you have to really feel passionate about being a physician in order to become a physician. It takes about 11 to 16 years of education, and if you love it, you're going to enjoy it. So if you're in high school right now, a lot of high school students want to know, how about now? Like I want to start becoming prepared for medical school. What the main thing you should do in high school is really try and think about it. Do you want to be a physician? Try to research. You know, the medical field is changing every day, especially now. So I think the most important thing you should do is shadow. Very important. You follow a doctor around. You're gonna annoy them a little bit, but it's okay. It's worth it. You try to imagine whenever you're shadowing. You try to picture yourself in their shoes. So these are just some things, like, do you like challenges? Are you interested in science and how the body works? And if you haven't taken anatomy yet or anything, and or biology, it's okay. Like maybe take a course whenever you go to undergrad and explore these courses and see, is this something you love? And really just do your research and shadow. The main thing, shadow. Okay, next. So once like you set foot into undergrad, the first thing you should do is see a pre-med advisor. So they're not all perfect. We all complain about the advisors in our school. They sometimes say crazy things. Like one time, an advisor told me that you need to start studying for the MCAT a year before the MCAT. I'm like, okay, that's not true. But you know what? They do have a lot of experience, and they despite some scary things or that they may say, in general, they can help you make a map or a plan so you don't waste time. And that's something that I wish that I did. I'm not a very organized person. I'm kind of like a spontaneous person. I see a volunteering opportunity, I'm like, oh, I'll do that and I'll do this. But it's really good to try to sit down and write it out. And I found this really nice timeline if you guys want to get the website from me after. And there's also some on the AAMC website, which I'll tell you about after. It's in another slide. But that's the first thing you should do, is just plan out your years. It'll make the stress so much easier to handle. It won't be out of your control. It'll be so much easier. And then classes. So whenever you first start off college, the number one thing you should do is really focus on your classes. Don't try to get too involved as a freshman, especially your first semester. What you really need to focus on is your grades, because at the end of the day, even though your experiences do make a big difference and your passion for the field, unfortunately, grades and numbers matter to a certain level. So just try your best to get a good study plan, and even if you're in high school right now, try to to see how you study, and so whenever you go to college, you can keep up. No, it's okay. Okay, so this seems like an overwhelming list, but this is just some steps of of things that you should keep in mind whenever you're an undergraduate career. And keep in mind that this is while you're trying to keep a good GPA. So And this is overwhelming, and it can be overwhelming, and that's why a map is very important. You shouldn't be doing all of these things at once. Like, you have plenty of time, so map it out. I'm gonna talk more about volunteering in the next slide, but once again, shadowing. It's good to have a good range of shadowing, so then they can really believe you that you want to be a doctor once you get to the interviews. If you just do an hour of shadowing and like, I'm good, I want to be a doctor, this is fun, they're not really gonna believe that you want to be a doctor because you don't have enough experience. So for sure, do some shadowing, a couple of hours here and there. Volunteering I'll talk about later, and some pre-med organizations that I heard of in FSU are MAPS, AMSA, AMWA, and those are national organizations that you can find on almost every campus. They're very good. AMSA is pretty popular, and it's a really good name on your application. I was only in AMWA, and that's fine, but like AMSA and MAPS are even, they provide you your service opportunities, and they help you with all of this stuff. So it's easier to go through an organization because they have advisors and they have people who are going through the same thing as you, and they'll like, you know, help you along the way. So yes.
Are those non-government organizations? Are those or are they federal organizations?
That's a good question. I don't know. A lot of them are like part of the university. I don't know, because it is a national organization. That's a good question. But they are usually funded through, you know, every student government in every campus. So.
And whatever services they provide, do those cost you? Is there a cost associated?
You sometimes have to pay dues for like T-shirts, but a lot of this stuff is free actually. Like unless of course you're going on a medical mission trip. I went to Costa Rica through AMWA, and like they helped a lot with the cost because they help to fundraise for the whole group, so that helps. But if you go on a trip, obviously you're gonna pay a lot out of pocket. But these organizations do help you get the entryway into like a doctor's office or into like a really cool volunteering opportunity. If you're on your own, you're gonna have to go and search for them, but they already provide them. So very good opportunity. And a doctor is a leader in the hospital or in their practice, wherever you are. Most likely, they have to lead. So I would urge you, even if you're not. If you don't want to be a president of an organization, at least be a part of a board at least one time in your undergraduate career, and be active in these organizations. It doesn't have to be a medical one. It can be MSA, Project Downtown, whatever you're passionate about. And I never did research because I was never really interested, but you don't know if you're interested in something unless you try it. So I really, in the beginning of your undergraduate career is when professors are looking for someone to help them in their labs, because if you get older, like your junior year, senior year, they're like, we can't have you because we need you to stay for like 4 years. So once you enter undergraduate, try to find a lab you're interested in and see if you like research. Because if you do, you can become a doctor who does research. You don't have to be a practicing physician. So you only know if you try. So for sure, try it out. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. It's not important for all colleges of medicine, unless they are a research, like really a research focused university. Then you might want to do some research, and try to balance what you already enjoy doing. Sports, art, whatever you want to do, keep doing it, because it helps you become or stay the person you are, and try new things like hobbies. You may think these things aren't important, like playing tennis on the weekends or all that stuff, but actually in the interviews they ask me more about my hobbies than about my volunteering. They want to know who you are as a person, and who do you hang out with on the weekends, who do you what do you do for fun and all that stuff. It's actually very important to make sure you not just stay in your room and study 24/7. Like, you need to make connections, make friends, and have fun at the same time. So I made an own, volunteering its own slide, because as a physician, you really are a service-oriented person, or you should aim to become one. And a lot of universities or college of medicines, actually, they want to see people who are serving, or they want to serve. And that starts now. That starts in high school, and of course in our dean, that's something that we want to do, is serve our community. So a really good, some advice to help you with volunteering. Whenever you're at any volunteer event, Project Downtown, which I did for 4 years, and a lot of you guys have already started in high school, it's like a long-term commitment, not always if you don't want it to be, but most of us stay in it for a long time. And by the end of it, you sometimes forget all the cool stories along the way. So what I would do is keep a journal and write down anything that really touched you, or someone you met that really made an impact on you, and just because in your application, they want to hear that. And so by the time you get to your senior year, you're going to forget if you don't keep on writing it down. So for volunteering, you don't need just health related. You don't need to just volunteer at every single doctor's office in your community. That's good if you do some, and you do need to do a lot of medically related if you're interested in it. But it's also good to do non-health, because they want to see you just aiming to serve, doesn't matter where it is, and it's not just to fluff up your application, because that's not what it's about. So you need to find something that you're passionate about, and not just something you're doing for your application. I'm sure you guys have heard about the MCAT, and I just put it on here because it's part of the process. You don't really need to worry about that until your junior year, or if you want to take a gap year, then you can take it your senior year. So you take it a year before you apply. And you also do your application a year before you apply. And that's all that stuff, you can, try to get that information when you get closer to the time. But some advice now, by the time you get there, you may remember it, is to tell you to start early and not stress. It's not a bad test, because all it is really cracking the practice test. If you know, it's really just trying to learn and understand the test. It's not really a reflection of all the knowledge you learned. It covers a lot of the basic sciences, but at the same time, it's really understanding how it's asked. It's like the SAT and stuff like that. It's a standardized test. So for sure, take your time to really to get a feel for the exam. So maybe 6 months preparation, along with school, you're gonna need some time, so I would suggest that, And I'm sure you guys all feel like this right now, with all this information that I'm presenting, and that's how I felt for a lot of my undergraduate years, because I didn't have this presentation early on, and I didn't really think about a lot of these things until I was approaching my application process. I'm like, oh no, I need more shadowing. I've done too much of this and not enough of that. So that's why going back to the map, make a plan, write it down, and you're not gonna look like this at the end. You'll be fine. What's another tip for the beginning, once you enter college, that a lot of people forget to do, is to make good relationships with your professor. That's easier to do in high school because you're 20 people in a room, and everyone knows their name. But in college it could be a large, conference hall. The teacher does not know who you are, and they don't care. They really don't care who you are either, unless you make the effort to make them care. If you go to their office hours, I don't need to go to office hours sometimes, because I usually I like to ask my friends instead. I don't really like to talk to the professor, but really make it a habit to. They're really sweet and nice, and they actually feel really confident, and they appreciate when someone goes to their office, and so it'll make yourself known, not in every class, but in the classes that you feel like this professor would write me a good letter of recommendation at the end. And yeah, for sure, make good relationships. And the personal statement, applying early, all this is just advice for your application. For your personal statement, make sure you don't have to think about that right now. It's an essay in your application, but advice for that is to keep a journal, again, like I said, with your volunteering. And then later on, really just keeping it personal. It's in the name. A lot of people, like myself, I overthink this kind of thing, and then I made it too creative, too I don't know. It was a lot of weird, random stories, but they don't care. All they want to know is how you feel. So if you just sit there and get in tune with a memory of the medical field that you really felt touched you, that's all you need to talk about, and they'll feel if something is sincere or not. So that's why for sure keep a journal throughout your undergrad for whatever field you want to do. And always back to the first thing, why medicine? That's a question they're going to ask you in every interview or almost every interview. And you have to really know, why do you want to do this? It's not just because Baba is a doctor or money. Oh, that's something I wanted to mention. Don't do it for money. And I'm going to talk about the jobs later. In my sister's medical school, in the first day, they said if you're doing it for money, leave. Because this is not a job that pays right away. It's after maybe 11 or 16 years of hard work and dedication that then you'll receive payment. But if you are in love with medicine, if you are passionate about the work of service in this field, you're going to get paid from day one, because you're going to feel like you really enjoy it. And so right now, it's okay if you don't feel passionate about it now. It's after shadowing and volunteering where you really build your passion and your interest for any field that you want to do. Okay, so this is just some motivation. In the beginning, things may not go as planned. Like I told you guys to make a map, I told you guys to make a plan, but what if you fail a class? What if something happens? You're not making straight A's like they say you have to do. It's okay. People have struggled before and they made it. Like he said, I don't know if you guys can read it in the back. He said, I was told that my grades and scores were not competitive enough, and now he's an orthopedic surgery resident at the University of Texas. And she said, when I struggled in chemistry my freshman year, I was told maybe medicine wasn't right for me. Now I'm a pediatrics resident at the University of Illinois. And I know chemistry, a lot of people complain about chemistry, gen chem, all of that. That's not gonna, just because you don't do well in chemistry, it doesn't mean you're not gonna be an awesome surgeon. There's not a correlation in this. It just means your study habits need to change. It just means you're not interested in chemistry. I do not like chemistry, but I still love medicine. So it's okay. You're not gonna love every class you take. That's impossible. But to be a good student, in the beginning, you really need to understand that even if you don't like a class, you need to see how you have to adapt and study, and that takes time, and that's okay. Okay, so these are two websites. This is for the DO, which is osteopathic medicine, and I feel like it's too early to explain osteopathic medicine, but it's an amazing field. It's basically a doctor, and most of the time they do the same exact thing, and they're held to the same standard as an MD. So this is for the MD application, this is for the DO application. I would apply for both to increase your chances, because it's really, really competitive. So the reason why I put these websites up here is not for the application, you don't need this now, but it has a lot of the information I got for this presentation are in here, and they also have their own timelines, especially AMC, because it's been up for a longer amount. This website is a really good tool for high school students, college, undergrad, and medical, and residents even. It has everything. So it has a lot of inspiring stories from students and a lot of information on here. So I would definitely write this down or come to me after if you missed it. Okay, it's an ugly slide, but this is the last one, and just because we're talking about jobs, this is our theme for this career talk. So there's a quote online that I saw in this article that it says, "There's no such thing as an unemployed doctor." So, and I mean, it's true. It's very easy to get a job after a residency. The spots in residency are limited, but after that, there is a shortage in America for especially primary care physicians, but also in every other field. So once you reach that milestone, you're done. You have a job, you have the security, which is good. You do make a lot of money once you're established, but you do have to remember that a lot of students graduate with over $150,000 in student loans, and that's actually a low number for some people. It could be $250,000. It's an expensive road. And I didn't put this in my in my presentation, but financial planning is also something that you need to think about when going into medicine. There's scholarships, there's grants, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of expenses, but inshallah, it's worth it. Yeah, thank you for the circles. It's worth it. You'll pay them off. That's a good part, inshallah. It takes time. That's why I said don't do it for the money. Because cool, like you do make a good salary in the beginning, but you're still paying it off. But inshallah, after that, you'll be set for life, inshallah. And this is just something I added. It's not just about being a doctor or getting your MD. There's so many fields out there that I don't know about that you guys can research. There's medical education. You can be after you finish your education, you can go back and be they're called attendings, or you can be like a professor, and these are all very prestigious jobs. So if you like the education aspect and you really want to be a teacher, but you love medicine at the same time, this is a great field. There's public health, there's biomedical research, there's clinical practice. So that's why I said from now, if you shadow and you hate being in a clinic or in a private practice, or you hate the hospital and you were like, but I want to do medicine. So there's also research, there's also public health, there's education, there's more things out there. And that's it.